Zelensky prepares his biggest war gamble as Kyiv moves closer to a long-range missile breakthrough. Ukraine's Moscow missile nears its first major test as development enters the final stretch. Is Ukraine just one step away from testing a ballistic missile capable of striking deep inside Russia? How Kyiv's FP9 could initiate a dangerous new phase in the war with long-range precision strikes. Zelensky raises the stakes, but could the new missile trigger a far harsher response from Putin? Ukrainian defense startup Firepoint said its FP9 ballistic missile is approaching its first full-scale flight test after years of development. The company said only the solid-fuel rocket engine remains under testing before the missile is considered ready for flight. Firepoint's chief designer said a successful engine test could clear the final technical hurdle before the missile's maiden test launch. Roll, short-range ballistic missile designed for long-range precision strikes against strategic military targets. Max range, up to 855 kilometers, according to the performance figures released by the developer. Declared target envelope, claimed to place cities including Moscow and St. Petersburg within operational range. Warhead, capable of carrying an 800-kilogram payload for high-impact strike missions. Top speed, reported maximum speed of Mach 7, or more than 2,200 meters per second. Accuracy, CEP claimed circular error probable of around 20 meters under expected operating conditions. Length, approximately 9.5 meters from nose section to rocket exhaust. Diameter, approximately 1.1 meters across the missile's main body. Propulsion, single solid-fuel rocket motor designed for rapid launch and sustained ballistic flight. Status, engine testing remains underway, with the first flight test expected after successful completion. The company said the FP9 was designed with sufficient range to strike Moscow, which falls within its declared operational envelope. The startup said ballistic missiles provide the speed and trajectory needed to penetrate Russia's layered air defense systems. Firepoint argued that drones remain more cost-effective for shorter missions, but are less suitable for deep strikes inside Russian territory. The company said the FP9 forms part of Ukraine's broader effort to develop advanced long-range weapons through domestic production. The FP9 is expected to begin the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's certification process during 2026 following successful flight testing. On June 27, Russia claimed that 2 Ukrainian MiG-29 fighters were destroyed on the ground at the Voznesensk airfield, in what it calls a major preemptive strike. Moscow says the attack was carried out using 2 of its new Geran 4 Seeker drones, highlighting the system's role as a precision airfield killer. Russian officials claim both fighters, already loaded with air-launched munitions, were hit before they could take off, robbing Ukraine of valuable sorties. According to Moscow's version, the strike also destroyed a fuel tanker, critical airfield equipment and some of the ground crews preparing the jets for flight. Russian Ministry of Defense said in a statement, and I quote, "During reconnaissance and strike operations at the Voznesensk airfield in the Nikolaev region, preparations for the takeoff of 2 Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jets were detected. One of the combat aircraft loaded with air-launched munitions was positioned on the apron in front of a reinforced concrete shelter. The second aircraft located inside the shelter was being refueled from a tanker truck. As a result of a strike on the airfield using 2 Geran 4 Seeker unmanned aerial vehicles, 2 MiG-29 aircraft loaded with munitions, a fuel tanker, a specialized APA-5D mobile airfield power unit, and the flight and engineering personnel who had arrived to prepare the aircraft for takeoff were destroyed." Unquote. Russia says the Voznesensk airfield strike was executed with its new Geran 4 Seeker drone, pushing this jet-powered weapon straight into the spotlight. The jet-powered Geran 4 reportedly entered combat service after mass production began this year, marking a step up from the earlier, slower Shard-type drones. Ukrainian intelligence has said the drone first appeared in combat in May 2026, suggesting Russia moved it from test ranges to real missions in just months. The Geran 4 flies far faster than the older propeller-driven Geran 2, giving Ukrainian defenses less time to react as it homes in on runways and fixed assets. The Geran 4 Seeker is a jet-powered, one-way attack drone designed to ram targets with a guided warhead instead of returning to base. It cruises at roughly 350 to 500 km per hour, fast enough to stress radar operators and shorten Ukraine's engagement window. With a range of up to 850 kilometers, it can reach deep into Ukrainian territory from launch points far inside Russia. The drone carries either a 50-kilogram warhead or a heavier 90-kilogram thermobaric option, optimized for smashing hardened or clustered targets. It is reportedly powered by a Chinese-made Telefly LXWP-160 turbojet engine, highlighting Beijing's role in Russia's long-range drone arsenal. Analysts assess it effectively entered combat in May 2026, with the Voznesensk strike now held up as one of its first showcase missions. All of this comes as Ukraine's president claims that, on the same day, Russian defense sites were also coming under fresh long-range attack. Volodymyr Zelensky released a video on X detailing Ukraine's latest strike on Russian territory, framing it as a direct answer to ongoing attacks. Zelensky alleged that FP-5 Flamingo missiles hit a major facility in Russia's Volgograd region on June 27, showcasing Kyiv's own deep strike reach. According to his account, the strike targeted the Federal Research and Production Center Titan Barakadi, a key hub in Russia's defense industrial complex. Russia-appointed authorities declared an emergency across occupied Crimea on June 27, following a sharp escalation in Ukrainian drone attacks. The move came after intensifying Ukrainian drone strikes targeted logistics hubs and military supply infrastructure across the occupied peninsula. Kyiv said the expanding campaign was retaliation for Russia's near-daily missile and drone barrages against Ukrainian cities. President Zelensky said Crimea had become central to Ukraine's broader campaign to restore justice and reclaim occupied territory. Ukrainian strikes have disrupted fuel depots, oil storage facilities, and key military supply routes across occupied Crimea. The attacks triggered fuel shortages and widespread power outages that affected multiple areas across the occupied peninsula. Sevastopol officials urged residents to reduce electricity consumption to help prevent overloads across the strained power grid. Crimea's occupation authorities also suspended fuel sales to private motorists as shortages continued to worsen across the region. Sevastopol also introduced restrictions affecting public transport, shops, cafes, and street lighting to conserve limited resources. Russia said its air defense systems intercepted approximately 660 Ukrainian drones during overnight attacks on June 27. Russia's defense ministry said one of the largest drone attack waves targeted Moscow, Crimea, and several other Russian regions. Meanwhile, Russian drone attacks killed civilians in Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk and Sumy regions during the latest wave of strikes. Ukrainian officials said a strike on Nikopol killed 2 people and left more than a dozen others injured. Amid the escalation, Russia and Ukraine also completed another prisoner exchange on June 26 under an agreed swap process. According to multiple reports, the latest exchange resulted in the return of 160 captured soldiers to their respective countries. President Zelensky said the released Ukrainian servicemen had been held in Russian captivity since 2022 before their return. The war continues to spread beyond the front line as both sides increasingly target each other's logistics and critical infrastructure.